go the good ones you want.
Okay.
Okay. All right, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, we are at Orchard Park High School. The date is November 17th, 2006. We are interviewing Mr. Roland Pigeon, who was in the United States Navy. The interviewers are,
Kathy McCarthy. Chelsea Pollinger.
Mitch Casey.
okay, I'll leave you guys with Mr. Pigeon. They have some questions to ask you. You didn't get a chance to look at them beforehand, but most of the veterans, we gave them the questions, but there's nothing in there that anybody ever objected to. So,
Okay.
learn a lot about life during the war. Mr. Pigeon was in 2 wars.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have a good time.
How you doing today?
Good. Want to know something about me or what?
Sure.
I was born April 20, 1925. I'm 81 years old,
So is my grand.
and I served in World War II for 2.5 years. Well, I had more than 8 months of that was after the war. I was the third of 5 sons. There was my other 2 brothers older than me were in the Navy when I joined, and when I left at 18, I had a brother 10, a brother 7, and a sister only 5. They're only little kids. But it was like 2 different families. And I joined the Navy, and I took an EDI test, which was named after Commander Eddie. It was for electronics school, and I was accepted because I went to Seneca Vocational, and I took up electricity for 4 years, and I was into that stuff. And I was real good in math. And because I was accepted, they sent me to Great Lakes Training Station instead of Sampson. And I had to wait 2 months to go, which was nice. I didn't go until after Christmas. They were forming classes for school. Went to Great Lakes, we were only in there 3 weeks, and we were out. And we took the rest of our shots in that in school, and I went to 11 months of electronic school. And I graduated in January of 1945. The first month was a washout month called pre-radio, where they washed out about 25%. Next 3 months was primary, and when I took that test, he automatically promoted me to Seaman First Class. That's equal to a corporal in the Army. And I went through boot camp at the Seaman First Class. And after primary, I was promoted to 3rd class petty officer, is equal to a buck sergeant. And I graduated in 25% top of the class, and I was promoted to 2nd class petty officer. I was only in the Navy 1 year, I was 2nd class petty officer, equal to a tech sergeant. And that's a sergeant with 2 rockers. And I went overseas, and I got on a ship, the destroyer minesweeper. They were called Suicide Fleet, because they swept in before invasions. And there was 16 in the original squadron. There was only 8 left when I got assigned, and then 4 were sunk that same month I got on. But I lucked out. I got on one that had been through a typhoon and had to be repaired. And we had to go through shakedown and degaussing, which is demagnetizing. And we finally were used as a radar picket ship, which is you're out in front of the invasions, and you look for planes coming in, you know. And then the war ended. I was in it 8 months, and the war ended. I lucked out there. So I didn't have to do any minesweeping. But when the war ended, I was on an old 4-Piper destroyer from World War I, one of the first ships to send home because it was going to be junked. And believe it or not, it was bought by the Gillette Razor Blade Company, because they used the armor plate to make their blue blades in those days. And we got to Pearl Harbor, and I was one of 32 men that was sent off the ship because we didn't have enough points to go home. So then I got assigned to a PC. That's me when I was 17 years old. And the PC is, that's a destroyer minesweeper right there. I drew that. I didn't get a picture of it. During World War II, we weren't allowed to take movies, pictures. After the war, we were allowed to take all the pictures we wanted. But during the war, we couldn't. And these are all after-war pictures. I'm pretty sure I got a picture of this PC somewhere. It's a medium-sized patrol craft, about 190 feet long, and it weighs about 1,900 tons. Not small. I forgot, that's my boot camp. Oh, that, 3 brothers in the Navy, that's us right there. That's my oldest, my second oldest, and that's me. And he was on a ship that was sunk, my oldest brother, Guadalcanal invasion, second battle of Guadalcanal, and his ship was a sister ship of the Juno. You know what the Juno is? That was a cruiser with the Sullivan brothers, and they both got sunk on the same day. Now that destroyer up there named the Sullivans is named after those 5 men. And we have a connection with the Juno. These are buddies of mine in World War II. Right? There's the PC right there. Yeah, it's a pretty good size. It was good duty. After being on a ship that was 27 years old, 25 years old, and you got on this thing only 2 years old, it was a really good duty. Everything was new and good food. I enjoyed that little ship. And then this ship on April 1st, 1946, Sunday morning, April Fool's Day, we got hit by a tsunami in Maui, the island of Maui. We were on air sea rescue duty, just sitting there, and the gang watch guy came down just about 10 minutes after we were up and saying, the ship is sinking. Everybody says, yeah, April Fool. But I was senior petty officer in that, and I saw his face. He was scared to death. So I ordered everybody out, no questions, just get up. And no sooner did they start running for the gangway, the stairway up, the ship went into a lurch, large noises, and we got on deck, and our ship was laying against the dock. We were in 18 foot of water originally. We were in mud. The water just pulled right out of the bay. You know, when I told people that story, they don't want to believe that. But now this last tsunami, a couple of years ago, the water pulled back almost 2 miles. But I got up and I got on deck, and I couldn't believe that harbor. It looked like an empty lake. But then the water came in, and we were lucky we were around the corner. And we were leaning against the dock. We were leaning out, we would have got swamped. But the water hit us from the front, popped us right up, and we got out of there. And I got called back for Korea. I got married first. That's my wife there in my wedding. Stick that one on that. That's the one. That's where she looks so pretty. That was a younger picture. That's a superimposed picture. That was a picture of me and a picture of her, and I put them together. And that's my favorite picture right there. I had that on my dresser, and I saw it first thing in the morning, and I saw it the last thing at night. And then I got called back for Korea in 1950, only married 2 years. And getting ready to go there. I didn't like it, but I had to go. And first thing I went to Japan, I took pictures there, crossing Japan, picture of a little girl carrying her sister, and that's common over there. These are pictures of the cemetery. These are kids waving at us when we're going by on the train. I sent cross country on the train, 38-hour trip. And their trains are a small gauge, you know. But we'd go up a mountain, and by the time we got to the mountain top, we were only doing 5 miles an hour. We thought we'd have to get out and forth. But we made them. And I went to Sasebo. That was on the southeast end of Japan. And I picked up my ship there. And, I had to chase it. I was on a transport. I had to chase my ship for about a month before I caught it. There's my ship right there, the destroyer. These are the pictures of my chief. And this is a picture of Nagasaki, the ruins. I didn't go there. He did. He took those pictures. These are on-board pictures. And I was an electronic technician. My duties were repair to electronics. at, this is the Battle of Hunan. We were there, and this is a demolition crew ship. They send in demolition crews, and we saw this. Because we were on firing mission for about 3 hours in the morning, 3 destroyers. We were the last ones there, holding the enemy back. Then we got relieved by 3, and we went out in the harbor, just sat there. It was a beautiful day. It was Christmas Eve. A beautiful day, and it was just like summer. And it was unbelievable that we had a war on. And then they blew up that city, and we saw that. And that was, I got articles about, I got my memoirs about that. There's a picture of it in Japan on Liberty, that's Liberty Pole. This is a picture of a South Korean officer that was assigned to our ship. Japanese money and script. Well, this is script. We couldn't spend, we had to get turning our American dollars. We had to use this, because they didn't want any American dollars to get in the hands of the Japanese either. Japanese ginzas, kids, kids going to school, they did more outside tours than kids than anything. They're always outside drawing or doing things. Here I'm up on a thing checking the radar detection devices. That's a picture of me with my chief hat on. His head was so big it went right down over my ear. There's that guy again, that officer. We get the pictures of aircraft carriers. That's the Mo there. That's the Manchester, I guess. That's the Mo again.
What ship are you on?
Missouri. I was on the USS W.L. Lynn destroyer. We were expending ammunition. We went to pick up a pilot in Wonsan. We were expending ammunition. Our captain was gung-ho. And the ammunition on these quad 40s was turning green. So he wanted to shoot the green stuff off, put new stuff off. And he's just shooting it up in the air, and he starts shooting at this island. Next thing you know, somebody starts shooting back. Boy, did we pull out of there. And I laughed. We laughed at it. It was like a break in the, we got shot at. They couldn't shoot worth a darn thing. So here's where we came under fire. I drew that. And the pilot had his buddy flying over so they wouldn't capture him. It was in Wonsan Harbor. And this is my brother. Full of surprise on me. He didn't surprise me at all. Joined the Navy after I got called in. He's 8 years younger than me. And he asked for my ship, and my father and mother signed for it. And he got it. But then he didn't phone me because I started getting mails from these young girls, and all the guys were kidding me about it. And it was funny because the first time I got a letter, we used to send a guy down the mail call, one man from each division. And he'd come up and he'd hand the mail out to you, and he'd call your name. And he hands this mail to me, and he says, "Oh, and it smells awful perfumey, you know." And "What's this?" And they all start giving me, "Oh, we didn't know you're married. What's going on, you know?" So then I grabbed the letter like a dumb fool. I smelled it, and they all laughed. And I was stunned for a minute. I thought, "Who is this? I don't know this name." So then I started looking at the name and was going to, and it was my brother. I said, "Oh, God." And he came on about a month later, and they had a stack of mail from that acting girls.
Wow.
But he didn't surprise me because I knew he was coming. But I was upset about him coming because I had a run-in with a second-class boatswain mate, the mess boatswain mate, mess MC, MO, and he gave me a hard time. He didn't know I was the first class. And he said, "Try to kick me out of there." And I said, "What I got to prove to you that I'm first class?" He said, "Show me 3 stripes." So I had to put my uniform on. And I came back and I said, "There's my stripes. Would you count them?" And I made him belittle in front of all his men. You know? And then I was afraid my brother would get assigned to him, and he would run him into the ground. But he didn't. I worked it out. He got assigned to a buddy of mine. I had I had a yeoman and buddy, and I had pulled with an officer, and I got him assigned to the back end where both of me was a good guy and we were friends. But I wrote this, sent it to my mother and father, and they put it, and this was put in the South Buffalo News. Then the news picked it up and they expanded on it and got some of the action that we were in. And then they did it over here too. You guys got a lot of questions, you know that?
Question.
Explain
This
things
was
real
a
well.
picture of Missouri. I think, no, it's not the Missouri. Yeah, it's the Missouri Farm. This is from a magazine. I put it in. That was from a Navy thing. That's the Iowa. That's the Iowa. That's the one that blew up. Had the big accident out. Was that when the guns blew up? The Iowa. They were in practice after the war. These are sandpans. Now, we were up in Northern Patrol, and these were all full of North Koreans. They were loaded, and there was hardly any woman on it. There was some kids. And they were sitting with their feet over the edge, working their way down to the south. They had about 150 miles to go. So we checked them out to make sure they weren't dropping mines. And our skipper gave them each a sack of potatoes and about a big bag of bread to each ship. Sent them on their way, because they had a long ways to go. They had about a 5-day trip. They had good weather. We were lucky. Well, you know, the weather in Korea was, the 38 power was about equal to lower Virginia, so it's warm. South Korea is warm. North Korea is cold. Wonsan would be about equal to Virginia. That's up in North Korea. But the North Korea is cold up in the Manchuria. We went in the Manchurian patrol a couple of times. That's cold.
How long were you in Korea?
We were there 10 months. We were in 3 battle stars. These are sister ships. I want to show you the one where we were out there in the winter where the guns, well, we blistered these guns firing so much, paint burned off them. We fired over 12,000 rounds of ammunition there. Believe that or not, that's 5. When we were in Northern Patrol, look how the ice built on the guns. There was ice all over the ship. See the ice on the guns? People say, salt water don't freeze? It sure does. And these are pictures I was fooling around there. There was an old toilet on there. I don't know what it was. And I was making believe I was throwing up on it. I never got seasick. You know, I was only in the Navy 4.5 years and I never got seasick. Trying to find it. He's going home now. These are pictures of Tokyo on the way home. This is Midway. A bunch of buddies of mine at the NCO club in Japan. This is Midway. Guys are swimming. That's where the goonie birds are. You know what goonie birds are? They're albatross. They're nothing but albatross. They're big though. They stand about that tall. Their wingspan is over 10 feet. That's why they can soar. But their Midway is their home. That's where they go to nest. And a certain time of year they can't land planes in Midway because so many birds are flying. This is when we came home. We made the news. World War II, I went home 8 months after the war was over. Nobody cared. All the trumpets and everything was done. All the bands were gone. And in Korea, I went home, they had a band in Japan, they had a band in Hawaii, they had a band in San Diego, they had a band at Norfolk. When we got there, we were East Coast. We went all the way through to Panama and came home. They put us in the paper, 4 ships. We were news. And we came home, and I come home to a good homecoming where guys greeted their wives and their mothers and fathers. It was really different than when I came home from World War II. It was 8 months later, and I got barbs from people, guys mostly. What are you, Sea Scout? What are you trying to show off? You know, I was still in the Navy. I had to get out, you know. I didn't have enough points. This is part of the homecoming here. This is where we went to Cuba. This was the San Juan Hill. We had to go to Cuba for shakedown, where our ship got completely overhauled. Completely. New guns, new 3-inch guns, new radar. Now the ship only cost $3 million, World War II. And they put a radar on our ship that was $7 million. $7 million, 1950. That was the price of electronics. It took off the whole wall. But that thing was so accurate, you could hit it on a seagull, it would stay right on. That's how good it was. That's how good it was. It was made for jets. That's what it was made for. You lock it in on a jet. Once you locked it in on a jet, it would hang right on that jet, no matter what, until it went, past. San Juan Hill, there's a funny story about that. This one guy got drunk, one of my strikers. He got percolating here. And he pulled one of these, he started hanging on one of these guns here. And it was an air gun. It was a cannon. It wasn't like this. It was a long barrel cannon with small hole. And the barrel was about that big, called an air gun. He started hanging on it, swinging on it, singing "Old Soldiers Never Die," because that's what MacArthur said when he departed, And the thing came off the back hook, and it rolled off the pedestal. And this caretaker came and bawled the heck out of us in Spanish. And we knew what he was saying. Get out of here, And we were laughing, and he sobered up right away. He said, "Come on, help me." So we helped him put it back on. There was about 5 of us. And we laughed, and whined. The guy says, "Get out." And we said, "We're going." Then he conked out in the car. We had been to the Bacardi Rum before that for a reception. And they some of the guys got a little tight. That was a Navy pier, was 3rd class petty officer. I was a Navy pier for 7 months. Secondary. That's me and my brother. That's my brother with boot camp. And during the World War II, we were not allowed to call electronic technicians. We were called radio materiel. And we had to wear a radio and signal because it was top secret. We had to swear all our books we couldn't take any books with us. They always locked up at night. And when we were shipped to another place, they would send them confidential mail. And all our instruction books, we didn't have them with us until we got on board. And then we were going to school, we had to turn them in when we went on liberty. And then finally after the war, we got our own recognition. And that's it. Helium electron. It's only got 2 little electrons, it's a helium atom, 2 electrons on it. And that's what I got on my head right there. Somewhere. That's it. That's my insignia right there. This here, I'm proud of this. This is my father's discharge pin from the Canadian Navy in 1919. Served in World War I, 1917 and 1919. This is my wife's auxiliary pin. I lost my wife 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago. I have a lady friend now, and I'm very content, and I'm happy. And we get along fine. She's a sweet little thing. And this is my Legion pin, the VFW pin, my American Canadian flag. I'm still proud to be half Canadian. USN. This is the ship I was on. Destroyer minesweeper, an old World War I thing. That's World War II, and that's the ship I was on in Korea. And I have a new destroyer. Now they're old fashioned. They're all gone now. Them destroyers have all been decommissioned. New destroyers are like cruisers. They're twice as long and twice as heavy. Our destroyer was 325 feet long and weighed 2,250 tons. The new ones were 6,000 or 635 feet long, and they weigh 6,000 tons. There are no such things as battleships anymore. Cruisers are missile cruisers. I mean, missile destroyers and missile cruisers. There are cruisers. That was my record from Korea. And Truman sent us a nice letter for Sturgeon. Wasn't that nice of him? That's my ship. And this is a crew roster when I got on board, after I got on board. My name is on there somewhere. As we're crossing the meridian, I never crossed the equator. I never got that far. I'm here somewhere. Should be right here. Oh, that's Essex. I'm looking in the Essex. Here I am, right here. ET1, and we had, all the regulars were 11, we were designated 56, we were reserved. You know, both times I went on, in World War II, I got on a sort of minesweeper. And I got on a ship with a bunch of guys that were already on for a long time. And I outranked half of those non-commissioned officers. And they gave me the silent treatment. They just resented me because I didn't have any sea duty. And for 2 months, I was all alone on that thing. And I lived with it, and I took all their barbs, and finally they accepted me. Then I get in Korea, and they didn't like reserves. And they gave me a hard time for about a month. And finally I blew my stack, had a bunch of them in the radar room. The radar guy gave me a hard time, the radar leader. And I said, look, we're in the reserves, and you guys weren't good enough to do this war. They had to call us in to help you. So here we are, live with it. We're part of you. And I told them right off, we're here, live with it. I said, we're not these 2-week wonders that come on and go off. And then they finally accepted it. And then I got to be good buddies with that radar guy that gave me a hard time. He became my best buddy. He was a second-class radarman. But I kind of covered all the bases. You got any questions otherwise?
Any particular reason you joined the Army? I mean, the Navy?
What was that?
Why did you join the Navy? Any particular reason?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't want hand-to-hand fighting in trench war. I didn't want that. If I killed somebody, they were 5-10 miles off. I got in my memoirs, I got one about a battle where we went to Sanjin in Korea, and we evacuated 10,000 South Korean troops, safeguarded it. And then we laid there, because there was a Chinese convoy coming down, and we knew about it. We laid there till dark. And there was no moon, and it was an Australian destroyer, the Warramunga. And they took fixes on the road before dark. And the plan was our ship would open on the back end, and then they would open on the front end and convert to the middle. And we blew the hell out of that convoy, and people were dying there. But I didn't look at it that way. If you're in the service, you get hardened to the fact that every shell that goes against them makes the war a little shorter, you know. And there's men dying there. But I didn't consider my ship a killing machine. I considered it a fighting machine. And I figured we won that battle, because there must have been a lot of men dying. But I had no compassion for them, because they were ruthless. They were taking our prisoners, tying their hands behind their back, blindfold, shooting them. You know, that's against the Geneva Convention rule. And I had no compassion for them people that were dying there. But then we tried to rescue an Australian pirate up north, and he ditched in it near us, but the water was so cold, and he had no raft. All he had was that Mae West. And apparently that didn't work. And he went under. And I felt bad about that for about a week. We lost that guy. We were so close. Our whaleboat got within maybe 15 feet of him, and he went under. And they couldn't get him. And we were not that far off from him, because he ditched right near it. And I felt more bad about that than anything else. But luckily I was in a World War II. I didn't see anybody get killed. But I went through the throes of knowing that buddies at home that I knew were getting killed in Europe. And then, you know, World War II, I was only 14 when I started Seneca, and the war in Europe opened up when Germany invaded Poland And all of us guys knew then that we're going to be in this. Then in December, I was 16 and a half, going on 17. And I got called in. I went in 18 and a half, 2 years later. I only spent 9 months over there during the war. But that war was different. We either had to win it or we were done. We understood that. It was do or die. Korean War was a little different. It was a police action. But it was to stop communism, and it did do that. It did do that. It served its purpose. But a lot of people don't know that. Vietnam is another question. That was a questionable war. And I was against it at first, but I stood with the government. The government went in there, they went in there and made the move. You got to stay with them. But in truth, if you look at history, only history can tell whether it was right or wrong. Same thing with this war. History is going to decide whether we were right or wrong. And in truth, before the war started in Vietnam, China and Russia were good allies against us. And if they would have took us on, I think they could have beat us. But when the Vietnam War came and Russia was the one with all the technical stuff and the modern stuff, they took over that war and they supplied Vietnam with such modern equipment that China got worried that Vietnam got so strong they could come up and capture China. They were worried about that. And they ended up enemies. After the war was over, China and Russia were enemies. We broke that alliance anyway. And then after the war, China and Vietnam had a border argument, and Vietnam went up there and beat the pants out of them. And China had to relent and let them say, okay, leave the border the way it is. But China resented the fact that Russia rearmed them so strong. But that was a losing war. I felt this way. Even if we won it and we moved out, it's going to go communist anyway, and that's just what it did. But I think the Vietnam guys were so mistreated when they came home. And I felt a little bit of that when I was in Korea. Because when we came back in Norfolk, everybody took their uniforms off to go off base. We went off as civilian because we were kind of heckled in uniform. Because the war was over, the big war was over, and people were used to peace, and they didn't want us to rain on their parade. They didn't want to see uniforms. So they kind of heckled us. They kind of, they kind of shunned us. So as soon as we got World War II, I was proud of my uniform. Glad to wear it. Korea was kind of ashamed of it. And the people made me that way. It was wrong. But that's neither here nor there. I'm ready for questions.
How did the war affect your life?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I made one little decision in Chicago that changed my whole life. I started going steady with this girl, and we almost got married. And I said, we're too young. She was only 17, I was 19. And I figured it all out, and I said, no, we're too young. I figured, she's meant for me, she'll wait for me. I got overseas, and when the war ended, the Dear Johns came in like gangbusters. And I finally got one. Broke my heart. And then I came home, I was disturbed for about, I was in agony for that 8 months that I didn't get home, waiting to get home to get back into life. And then I come home and I dated girls and nothing ever clicked, and I dated about 6 and nothing happened. And finally I got to wait until I meet the right one. And I stopped dating girls. And then 3 months later I met my wife and something clicked. And that was the end. And it changed my life in that respect. It also changed my life in many respects. When I was in Korea, we visited Busan, and we went on Liberty, and there was kids all over the place, loaded with scabs and sores and begging, living in the streets. And I thought, if only our kids at home could see this, they would appreciate how lucky they are. And all I had was candy to give them, and I gave them candy. I broke it up and gave it to them, me and my buddy, in pieces. And it was all boys, because there was no girls. The girls must have been muscled off the street. You know, like 9, 10, 11 years old. It was a shame. And you think how a war can turn kids against kids, and, you know, and I thought, if only they could see this. I got that in my memoirs somewhere. I don't think I only got partial memoirs. I wrote them down. But otherwise, it affects you. I'll tell you, it's an adventure in a way. You look back and you reminisce. You know, went to Korea, these guys put, you know, we got that extra year put on by Truman. They put an extra year on our hitch. And all these guys were moaned because they had to serve 5 instead of 4. Couldn't wait to get out of the Navy. And I said, wait a minute, don't wish your life away. Because there'll be a day you're going to wish you were back or with your buddies, because I went through this. And they say, oh no. But then we at our reunions, they told me, Roland, you were right. Calling me Pidge. I miss my buddies. You do. You reminisce. You look back and you're like brothers. You sleep together, you eat together, and you learn to be a family. It's a different experience. It's an adventure in itself, really.
How are you guys doing on time?
Real good.
You finished?
Yep.
They asked about 3 questions.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let me press the record button. All right, I guess that.
You want to borrow this book? Is that-
You know what?